The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Welcome back to another episode of Living United with Nashua Business. This show is one where we normally will bring business people in from the local community to talk about how they give back philanthropically and participate in the process of making Nashua a stronger and better place to live. Today's a little bit different. We're actually bringing a partner of ours from one of the local nonprofits who we're working with at United Way on a couple of projects to talk about the projects and how those are going to benefit the community and learn a little bit more about the organization called Grow Nashua. So I have with me today Justin Monroe. He's the executive director from Grow Nashua.
Thanks for having me.
And well, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
And it's great to have you on what I would call the Mike Show.
All right.
So it's great. I mean, that's my brand. It's the Mike Show. So anyway, Justin, welcome. So your organization is Grow Nashua.
Yes.
And so in our conversation, we'll kind of weave back and forth. I'd like to start out just with a little introduction to people. What is Grow Nashua?
Sure.
This thing I'm hearing all about everywhere I go.
Yes, that is good. Grow Nashua our mission is actually to provide urban farming for underprivileged families in Nashua, families that don't have access to a space to farm or maybe not necessarily the financial means to kind of put together all the pieces to have a space to grow their own fresh vegetables. And so our role in the community is to work with the city and work with hospitals and work with different businesses to find spaces throughout the city that just aren't being used but are sunny and we could potentially grow in. So we provide these skills to these families so that they have the ability to grow vegetables, and then we give them the space to grow the vegetables in.
So I've heard about community gardens.
Yep.
I think we have community gardens here in Nashua.
Sure.
Have probably for, I think, a long, long time.
Yes. Yep.
I think there's some actually up in Greeley Park and down by the rail trail. And
yes.
So what's the difference between like a community garden and an urban farm?
Sure.
I hadn't heard this phrase before, urban farm.
So the community gardens, we have several within the city currently. They're more of a plot-based system where you kind of sign up on the list and you get into a plot and you kind of have your own plot and you do your own thing. There's not necessarily the community involvement. There have been several organizations throughout New England that have formed these. They've kind of brought the community back into community gardening. And so the purpose of Grow Nashua, we bring the families in together. So we'll have 15 families that are in a garden together, growing together, taking training classes that the Hampshire Conservation Commission is helping us design agricultural classes that our farmers can go to learn the skills about soil health and nutrients for plants and growing cycles and making sure that they're knowledgeable so that when they go out on their own, they have the skills to then farm. And part of the purpose of bringing families in and teaching them and then setting them up within a spot that's hopefully close to, as time goes by and we have more plots that pop up throughout the city, we'll be able to say, like right now there's a park in town over on Salem Street. I think it's Toll Street Park is maybe the name of it. And the city, it's kind of not really utilized very much anymore, so we were looking for a family that could potentially, we could have learn with us this year, and then next year we could give them a space which is right next to where they live. They're right next to their apartment.
Okay, so in these classes, I imagine, not a farmer.
Yes.
Going to go out on the limb and say, not even a green thumb. So
Yep.
I'm the guy who would at one point in my life, my wife and I actually managed to kill a ficus plant in our house, and that's pretty challenging to do. So way back in the Wayback Machine, my family, when they immigrated from Eastern Europe. I think they were like potato farmers or something, settled in upstate New York, became farmers in the 20s and 30s, and, failed miserably.
Okay.
I suspect because things are so different here.
Sure.
Right? New England, the Northeast, it's harsh climate. We grow a lot of rocks.
Sure.
We
Yeah,
have a
that's
very
the soil,
short growing season.
Right.
So what is it a person would actually learn in this class? It's a year that they
This
participate?
is during the season. So during the growing season, we have the trainings actually pair with what's happening in the season. So at the beginning of the season, they're going to learn about soil health. They're going to learn about planting in succession and how to time out your plantings so that you can get more growth out of the same space. Complementary plants that work well near each other or next to each other. Then as the season progresses, we're going to get into like pest management and knowing which things are just insects and they're fine to have around and they're actually beneficial, and which ones maybe aren't, how to combat those. And then toward the end of the season, we'll work on the harvesting and the preserving. And then after harvest, we partnered the learning garden is the physical space is at St. Joe's, and we also have worked with the New Hampshire Food Bank and brought the Cooking Matters program inside of St. Joe's, and it's running throughout the year.
So St. Joseph Hospital is
Yes.
a partner, a strong partner in this.
Yes.
So you mentioned the learning garden or teaching farm. I think you've called it both of those.
Yes.
So that's a piece of land at the hospital which is being prepared. Talk about that.
Yes.
How big is it? What is it?
So they've donated about 5,000 square feet to us for this growing season.
Oh, that's pretty big.
Yes. So it's a great space. We can fit about 15 or 20 families in that space.
Okay.
And the families will grow there on that space, and we're calling it the learning garden. It is the space where they learn how to become a farmer.
Okay.
And then inside the hospital, there is the cooking program. So that kind of closes the circle of learning how to grow the food, and then sometimes it's, hey, what do I do with this particular type of vegetable? I normally don't buy this from the grocery store.
Yeah.
Hey, let's cook it inside. Let's teach. And so we have just collaborated at every level. We've collaborated with the community, from the United Way to St. Joe's Hospital to the state level UNH Extension, the New Hampshire Food Bank and their Cooking Matters program, and there's 10 other large places and small individuals that have just really been fully on board with this, which is great.
It's awesome.
More than we could have imagined.
It sounds like a great program.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you and I, when we first met, it's got to be a year ago now.
Yeah, it was about a year. Yeah.
And we just met at a meeting randomly, and I think at that time you just said,
Yeah.
hey, I want to do some farming thing with, I think we were talking about immigrants and refugees at the time, and that's probably still part of the thought.
Yes, yeah.
And you started, I know, thinking on this and building a plan, and I'll tell, would share with the audience, with the folks who are watching, a little bit about. So then you presented us at United Way with a proposal to become a fiscal agency of United Way.
Yes.
Which is something that people don't really know a lot about. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean to you to be a fiscal agency of United Way versus being your own independent 501c3 nonprofit?
So originally when we had met, what I was looking into was, what is a nonprofit? How do I become a nonprofit? What are the rules with becoming a nonprofit? And after we met and you had mentioned fiscal sponsorship as a process that exists, and we started talking about that, I started to see, hey, that's really beneficial, because if I work with the United Way as a program of the United Way, I don't necessarily have to be bogged down by any of the administrative details about starting a nonprofit right from the beginning.
Right.
And instead, I can just kind of get right to my mission, which over the course of a year, we've been able to accomplish a lot. And I think, I was thinking about it before we were meeting here, and I don't think I would be at this point right now ready to go embraced fully by the community if it wasn't for having that fiscal sponsorship, because I would still be setting up, I would still be creating my board and setting up my administration. I would have been paying for insurance for all this time.
Yeah, so I'm thinking like when my
IRS
wife and I started up,
paperwork.
when we started
Yeah.
up our business, it was for profit, but the nonprofit world, it's kind of the same. You have to incorporate. You have to decide, am I going to be a C corp, an S corp,
Yes.
an LLC? Of course, you would be a 501c3, but
Yeah.
you have to set up your board of directors. You have to set up your bank accounts, get your insurance lined up,
Yeah.
an attorney. All of that stuff
Yes.
is handled as part of this fiscal agency relationship, so you can focus on your mission,
Right.
which is digging in the dirt and hopefully
Right.
hopefully raising things
Right.
that are
And that-
healthy to eat.
Right, and so I think for certain applications, I think that fiscal sponsorship is great. I mean, I think as we discussed the mission and what the business model looked like, I think it was a perfect fit. I think
Yeah,
that was.
and we look at that way too. For us, I kind of look at fiscal sponsorship as sort of an incubator approach to spawning nonprofit work in the community in a cost-effective way. So, I don't think any of us would benefit as a community just by having a proliferation of nonprofit organizations, but we would definitely benefit by having a proliferation of the work you do. That's the important part at the end of the day, I think.
Yeah, and I can imagine that there are even some organizations that could be more of a rise and fall. Maybe they're just around for a year or two, and they did their work, and then they just
Absolutely.
naturally progressed out of whatever the mission was, or things change in life. So I could see that being a pretty good fit for fiscal sponsorship.
Or they
as well.
might decide they never ever really want to actually have their own, organization beyond, and that would be fine too.
Yes.
So
Right.
that would probably be quite a logical conclusion to come to.
Yeah, I think it's.
So,
I appreciate that you
well-
guys offer that as a.
Well, we're glad to do it.
service,
Honestly, we're really glad to do it, and we look at it as part of our mission that's expanded. And the fiscal sponsorship we do is, the agencies, the organizations we work with are quite diverse. Everything from teaching kids how to play, violins to youth soccer
Yes,
programs to farming programs.
Yes.
What do they have in common? Not a lot,
Yeah.
except for this fiscal agency. So, thank you. So, what inspired you to? What brings you to the conclusion that you want to start an urban farming program?
It came out of it actually came out of last spring. My wife and I were gardening, and we just said, this is great. We're so happy. I think as probably everyone right now is feeling like, I can't wait until it's a nice sunny day. Like tomorrow might be that day. It's supposed to be 50, I think, and it's coming.
And you're gonna go like out in the garden.
Well, I'm going to get my hands in the dirt as soon as I can. It's just something about it. It's therapeutic. There's research behind it that says it's.
Sure, I'll let you believe that. Not for me, but yeah. When it hits 50, I'm probably going to go for a walk or something like that. Yeah, but I understand.
Yes.
I hear you. You're not unique in that way.
So that sent us down the path of, hey, we were enjoying this, we're outside. Hey, what happens for the family that might have come here, in particular the refugees that are arriving to our country, what happens to them? I mean, they might have had that situation. I know if I got stuck in another place, in another country, and I was in an apartment and I was working at a bottling manufacturing job during the days, I would really miss gardening and farming. If that was my profession or if it was my hobby or whatever it was, I would miss it. And I would look forward to getting back into it. And so we initially thought, oh, well, let's make our garden a little bit bigger, because we do that every year anyways.
Yeah.
But we didn't want our neighbors to think we were too crazy and just keep expanding our, cutting down trees.
How big would you say, ultimately, what do you envision for like the plots of land that I kind of think of this as like urban gardening, farming, the learning process, and then it's almost like a urban homestead program that we're developing, right? We have people that are homesteading, taking on pieces of land and taking ownership for them.
Yep.
How much space would a person need of arable land to actually do this in an effective way?
Depends on what they were looking for. So at the end of each season, at the end of the learning garden season, they'll graduate out of the program and we'll say, hey, what did you like? Do you want to do this just for you? So if it's just for them and they just want it for their family, and maybe they're just a family of 2 or 3 or maybe 4, 2,000 square feet could be good if they're just kind of looking to do it as a hobby.
Yep.
If they're looking to do it a little bit more, maybe 4,000 feet, and maybe they're doing some of that preserving and some of that canning, and they're saving stuff for over the winter. And then once it gets past that mark, then we're starting to talk about, we're creating a surplus. And then that's the last part of what Grow Nashua does, is we're going to provide that surplus the ability to get sent back into the community. So back into the hospitals and into the schools and into the businesses that are allowing us to use space. They're also eating vegetables inside of the building, so we can complete that circle for these families, giving them an economic boost.
So like things like maybe selling them at the farmer's market, or
They could do that.
to restaurants?
Yes, yeah. I
or-
think at a certain point, there's looking at other cities similar to us, like Lawrence or Lowell. Those two cities both have similar diverse populations. They both have similar size. Lowell's about, I think, somewhere around 100,000, so it's just a little bit bigger than us. And they have, currently they have an organization called Mill City Grows that has put in 300 or 400 lots and a production farm, and they can't keep up with the demand. So
Wow,
they are
300 or
putting
400.
Yes. So we have in Nashua right now, we have probably we have 100, and maybe 60 or 70% of those are active. But again, it's just it's mostly hobbyists, mostly lots where people aren't actually trained on how to utilize the land and how to intensively farm the land for maximum production. So it's a little bit of a different
Right.
equation.
That's amazing. That's so much more than I imagined. Actually, a couple hundred is a lot.
Yeah,
It's a lot.
and they're through here and out and kind of tucked into random places.
Yeah.
And some of them belong to organizations like the Boys and Girls Club has 6 or so at their place.
Yeah,
The
they're
Adult
like their
Learning
raised
Center has a
planter.
little greenhouse that they use. So
Yeah.
it's used for different applications.
Right.
Teaching, a lot of them are used for teaching.
Right. Interesting. It's such a great thing.
Yeah.
I can't think of any real downsides to, like, why would we not do this?
Yes, and there are so many there's so many good reasons to bring the mission. The true mission is just really to bring community together, to have those friendships in between those farmers that normally wouldn't necessarily know each other, and now all of a sudden you have a core group of 15 people that have spent a summer together farming. They've spent training courses together, learning, and they've spent cooking classes together, cooking and breaking bread together. So between those activities, and this is the research that there's a place in Lewiston, Maine that has a similar program, and they found that they started it out for the food purposes and getting people healthy vegetables, and they found out that it really built community.
Now, Lewiston, I
even
believe,
more.
has a large Somali community.
They do, yes.
Is that
They do, and they
involved with
kind
it?
of catapulted from that. And I think the interesting thing is that there are certain populations of refugees that arrive to our country that are traditionally farmers. And I think that enabling them to, again, be able to farm as a living can help sustain the demand.
Right.
Because it's always a supply and demand thing. We don't want to have more plots around town than we actually have demand. And
Of course.
so connecting people with those places is part of the success of that equation.
So I wanted to ask you, what can people do to get involved and help you?
Sure.
What are ways to support Grow Nashua? I mean,
So right now, one of the things that people can do to support, we have the Day of Caring that's coming up next month, which is going to be awesome.
I think we said it's April 21st.
Yeah, which is a Friday.
And that's going to be
Friday.
building this community garden,
Yeah.
community farm
Yes.
at St. Joseph's Hospital.
Yeah, which is going to be awesome. We're psyched to have your partnership on
So
that.
the easy way for people to find out about that is really on our Facebook page for United Way, which is United Way GN on Facebook, and there's an event set up all about the Day of Caring, which is all about food security, and people can sign up and register there for the event.
So that's super, and that's good. We're going to have, it'll be a fun day. It'll be a nice sense of accomplishment,
Yep.
and we're building the space out, the foundation really for the 15 families that will then,
Okay.
farm and plant the plants and learn all that process. So this is more of setting the foundation, which is a critical part, and the amount of manpower that we needed to do that. It's huge.
And I guess shout out to P&L Landscaping, who's helping out with some of the prep work as well.
Absolutely.
Eric Grant and his crew, they're
Because
phenomenal.
because that's going to be that's really our first step.
Yeah.
And Eric and his team has offered to help with that, which is
Great.
Which is a blessing as well. So, so that type of community support, I think, spreading the word about Grow Nashua, what we do, and if there are places, people that are even people outside this, that people that have space or that know an organization that they could refer us to that has space, keeping an eye out for things like that and letting us know that there are spaces out there. Hey, look at this space. That's basically over time what we'll expand to. And possibly if you work at an organization and there's someone in the organization that you said, oh, I'm pretty sure that this person is pretty into gardening and HR, and maybe they'd be willing to help you, give you that space and line that up for you. That would be helpful as well.
And I'm in the shameless fundraising business.
Yes.
So I will say that I happen to just know off the top of my head that if anybody feels like compelled to donate money to Grow Nashua, they can text Grow Nashua to 41444.
Wow, you're good.
I know that
You're good.
So,
I'm new to the
so just get out your phone and get out your phone and 41444 text Grow Nashua and Justin will take your hard-earned money and put it to good use.
Yes, and we're actually starting a fundraising campaign on Facebook tomorrow. So
fantastic.
So that's going to kick off, and just looking for some community support, which will give us a little more support when we are looking for some of those larger grants, and the grantors look for, hey, do you have community support? So that'll kind of give us a little bit of.
And I think you've already gotten some support. I think Triangle Credit Union gave you a grant. I'm not sure.
Yes. DCU.
Oh, DCU. Sorry.
DCU did.
DCU. Yeah. Okay. So Triangle Credit Union, you got to plug. So now you got to give some money. But yeah, DCU. That's right.
Yeah. Yep. And the grassroots funding, I believe, is also another organization that's looking at helping us kind of get off to a good start. So so it's coming along. There's definitely there's good support.
That's so great. You know, it's exciting for me to see this coming to fruition after just talking with you about it for a year and seeing how you have persevered. You know, in the face of you're inventing a business essentially from scratch. You know, so it's cool.
Yeah,
it takes a lot to get that done. It's a heavy lift.
Yeah, it's something it's piece by piece. Yeah. And fortunately, there were other organizations out there that do this similar work. Right. And I was able to kind of say, this business model looks good. This business model looks good. What if I combine? And I basically combined three because Nashua we don't really have those production farms that are out there. Some places just have a little learning garden and then they kick people out to a production farm. Right. I kind of had to create both things simultaneously, so it's coming along. So
you're a third or fourth generation Nashuan?
Yes, yeah. My great grandmother moved here about 100 years ago. From Canada this year.
So this is kind of a legacy piece for you too.
Yeah.
This is a way to, leave an indelible stamp on the community that your family has called home for generations.
Yes. My grandfather built buildings in town, so he was very active in Rotary and in different organizations. He had a lot of pride in Nashua. Yeah. And he was meticulous in his work. So I definitely am proud to still be supporting this city.
Yeah, I always tell people I'm super impressed when I hear about people who've been here multiple generations. I grew up in California, and if you're in California for 10 minutes, you're like a native. That's sort of the bar for being accepted is very low because it's just constant stream of newcomers to the community. But here, until you're at 2 or 3 generations, you're still a newbie. You're from away, and I guess my daughter's children maybe at that point might not be considered from away, but that's cool. And you have a couple children?
Yes, I have 2 kids. 2 kids. Yeah.
So I've met your daughter.
6.
She's awesome.
Yes, she's quite the United Way.
She is. She comes to meetings and does name badges. Hey, maybe she'll be there on the 21st. She probably has school.
She does, but that's true.
Maybe she can.
Maybe. Well, now that we're on TV, I can't really pull her out, call her in sick.
That's true. So what school is she in?
Broad Street.
Oh, okay. So, I know the principal.
Yeah.
Maybe work on that.
Of course you do.
So yeah, see what we can do. But yeah,
And
she's been a great volunteer.
I would say that is one of the other super benefits of having the United Way as a fiscal sponsor, and you and Liz in particular, is just the fact that I'm inside of a great organization that has outreach and that has partnerships and that has that network, that when there's a situation that I don't quite know what to do next, you've been an awesome resource to
thank you.
be able
I appreciate that. I mean, we
ask
look at
for help.
I think Liz and I both look at ourselves as our job is to connect people. At the end of the day, that's our mission, is connecting people and making this community a little bit stronger. I mean, the United Way has a long mission of fundraising and investing back in the community, but that's not important. It is important, but we really both gravitate toward the connecting people part of the business. So hopefully that's been helpful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it has tremendous. Yeah, it's really kept the ball moving smoothly, which has been fun, more fun than a bumpy ride.
yeah.
By myself.
I'm sure, absolutely. So we just have another minute or so left, and I first of all wanted to thank you for coming on the show today, and we'll put this up on YouTube and Facebook and get some publicity for Grow Nashua, which is awesome. And also, I have a gift for you.
Oh.
So I should say, everybody who comes on the Mike Show gets a gift.
Okay.
And nobody gets a very good gift. That's
like your tagline.
That's my line. And usually it's a United Way T-shirt.
Hey, I love T-shirts.
So this is white. I don't know if this is great for digging in the dirt. I guess adult large.
Thank you.
Because,
Live United.
I thought you would.
It's the slogan.
Fit that well.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah. We put our slogan on our shirts, because sometimes you don't remember. Oh yeah, Live United. But we are looking forward to the 21st. Yes. Should be an awesome day, and hopefully we'll get a bunch of great volunteers, and you'll get some support and some traction with your program.
Yeah.
And
excited.
And I can't wait to see what the years ahead bring.
Yeah, lots of veggies.
So lots of veggies and farming in Nashua.
Yeah.
So, except for me, I'll be eating the veggies.
Fair enough.
Somebody's got to be on the demand.
Yeah, right.
The demand side of the equation.
Supply
you
and
said,
demand. Yes, that's how it works.
So supply and I'll demand. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me today, Justin, and for the great work that you're doing.
My pleasure.
In our community.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.